Hey, Chamber members, Alan Waters here, your Director of Marketing and Communications at the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce and your Words of Wisdom podcast. Today, I am joined by
Rachel Waters of Waters Productions.
All right, let's clear the air. This is my wife. When I started at the Chamber, I'd already been, and many of you who are listening already know this, I'd already been a member for a while with our company. When I started at the Chamber, part of that was Rachel was taking over the operations of our company, and I was going to be Chamber. I try really hard, many of you know this, to keep things fully separated. I think one of the funniest examples we've had is right after I had joined the Chamber and was in one of the case groups, someone asked and mentioned, they were like, oh, I know somebody who does that. And I was like, nope, not here. And Chase Brinson of Ed and Ethel said it best, where he said, right number, wrong time. And so that's a lot of what I do is when I'm here at the Chamber, I am Alan Waters, Director of Marketing. That's it. But this episode is going to blend those things a little bit. So I just want to get that clear the air first and foremost. But diving into what the episode is, the first question I ask everybody, Rachel, what does success mean to you?
Well, you know that has changed a lot for me in terms of exactly what it's focused on, but it's always been trying to, if I can successfully make a living in what I'm doing, that's success. With the previous career of theater, it wasn't, I need to be at this theater on Broadway, whatever. It was, if I can happily make a living doing this, that's it. If I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, that's it. And I've always had to do something creative because everything else doesn't quite satisfy that itch.
And this is probably the hardest episode I've ever done because, like, I know so much of this stuff. All right, breaking that down for people, what is your background? What did you do in theater? You know, when you graduated high school, I ask this question a lot. When you graduated high school, what did you want to do, and how did that trajectory kind of come from here? If anybody doesn't know, Rachel's from here, and her junior year was when the gym collapsed.
That's correct. I went to Blacksburg High School and then kind of Blacksburg Middle School, but as a high school. So when I was in high school, I did do theater there, but actually upon graduating, I started at James Madison University as a fine art major, and then I became a crew member on a show because a friend said that they needed more crew members, and through that process kind of realized that was more what I wanted to do, and eventually realized that through scenic painting and design, which is what I ended up doing, I was able to combine the two things pretty seamlessly. So,
and what is scenic painting for those not in the theater world?
That is painting the sets. So it is a lot of painting wood to look like other wood, really, and other surfaces. So if you need some faux wood, hit me up. Maybe in a few months, but
right.
Yeah.
Well, as the time of recording, you are still very much pregnant. When this comes out, you will hopefully not still be very much pregnant.
I would hope so at that point.
So that's kind of cool that we've got that going on. Talk to me about, these past few years, because when we were in New York for a while and moving here, I know that was tough on you. How has this changed since we've been here?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we were in New York doing theater production there, and I did end up focusing more on the painting than the design, although I did assist a few designers up there, and did a little bit of whatever people would hire me for, because freelancing is a lot. But when COVID hit, we were kind of forced to make the decision of, hey, we don't know when our jobs would ever come back. we can't really financially stay here, which was great timing after getting our first apartment by ourselves in Jersey City in January of 2020. So I think the biggest difficulty that I had was just kind of being uprooted without much of a choice, and definitely coming back to my hometown or adjacent to my hometown was not exactly my plan. So it took a little adjusting, but after some time to reflect on that, I realized that it was really better for me and for us because we were both really burnt out. And I think you maybe realized it a little more than I did, but I didn't realize how completely exhausted I was until I was able to stop doing it, really. So through that experience, we then were able to kind of pivot and say, like, these are the skills we have. There's not a significant amount of theater in the New River Valley that will hire you to freelance and paint and all those sorts of things. So we started Waters Productions as a way of taking those skills and being able to serve ourselves a little bit, but mostly just this area a little better.
And with that, do you feel like your experience with painting and fine art has helped with the I feel like I'm so much more eloquent when I'm not talking to my wife. With the photography and the videography things, do you feel like your experiences with painting and with art in general have helped with that?
Definitely. I mean, in general, I've always had, I think, an eye for composition in whatever form I've needed it in. And it's always helped me to, especially theater in general, has given me I'm trying to think of the word, the ability to kind of pivot and the flexibility to change on a whim. Theater is live. Things are going to happen. So being able to adjust and adapt has always been a skill that I think I've gotten from that. And especially in the wedding industry, it's kind of the same thing. It's one big event. It's one big play of sorts. So being able to adapt to any changes that come up in the timeline or the people or the weather or whatever has definitely been a great skill that I've been able to transfer from that.
With the weddings and those things, well, first, tell us about the company, all the things company does, all of those things.
Yeah, you skipped that a little bit.
It's all right.
So we provide videography and photography, whether separate or bundled together, for weddings, events, portraits. Events, you've probably seen me taking pictures at a bunch of the chamber events. So at the end of last year, 2024, we created a subset of the company, Langley Media, which the goal of that is to help businesses, especially small businesses and entrepreneurs, create a catalog of photos and videos on a monthly membership basis so that they can start building up their marketing in different ways that they might not have had access to before.
And I mean, largely I feel like that came from our time at Great Road, just not having a consistent basis of that. I mean, even with Waters Productions, I mean, any small business owner I feel like can tell you it's hard. The marketing is hard, especially when it's just you and you're doing all of the different things. And so that was kind of born out of, hey, what do we need help with?
And how can we help other small business owners? Yeah, because we're in the same boat.
Yeah. This is bizarre to me to talk like this about the company because I don't talk about it here. But there's just not a way for us to have this episode without me doing it. So beyond those pieces with the weddings and everything like that, do you have things that you've kind of started to gravitate towards that you feel, hey, this is more my wheelhouse? These are the things I enjoy. These are the things I don't enjoy.
Definitely portraits, and I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with the weddings, but couples and eventually families, just having multiple people to interact with each other, trying to capture those genuine moments between people is what really kind of draws me in, especially to photography.
I think she does a great job of doing that, interacting with the people while I'm like wandering.
Off taking pictures of flowers.
Yeah, like wandering around, seeing a flower or a tree or a bunny.
This is why he doesn't lead the company anymore, actually. It's not the chamber.
There are too many flowers. She took me to the horticulture gardens and I got lost for a little while and then always made it in for my 9 to 5. But
yeah.
And with that, with weddings and things like that, dealing with the people, what do you think you've been able to pull from with the past experiences that have helped with that? I mean, you mentioned being able to move with on the fly, which I fully agree with, but I think there's so much that goes into a wedding day that people don't always understand, especially when it comes to photography and videography. I think all industries we can see on Facebook all the times where people are like, I want to do this, but I don't want to pay an arm or a leg, or looking for budget friendly.
What is your budget?
Right.
I want to know.
Yeah.
No one knows what an arm and a leg costs except maybe someone on the black market. Like what?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on? So what are those pieces that lead up to why does it cost what it costs?
Okay. There are a lot of questions in there.
There are a lot of questions.
There are a lot of questions in there.
See, normally my guests just answer their thing and they don't talk back, but this is my wife, so she can talk back as much as she wants.
So there are a lot of behind the scenes pieces that go into it, even on the day itself, that I think the theater experience, especially working backstage a lot, really speaks to. But you kind of see all of the moving pieces that the guests or the audience, quote unquote, doesn't necessarily see, but are a big piece of why wedding vendors cost so much is their equipment. Cameras are not cheap. Food is not cheap. Software is not cheap. The list goes on. All of those pieces that help make that process seamless. And the skills, honestly, behind it. We've both put a lot of time into refining our abilities behind the camera, and then following that, editing everything. There's a lot of time that goes into all of those pieces, especially if you're filming for an entire wedding day. I promise you don't want all of that footage. You want the nice movie that comes out of it. But sometimes you do, but
right. But then, I mean, that's really the day of and afterwards. I still think a lot of what you do leading up to is in itself. I mean, let's walk through the general process of I'm a couple reaching out. Hey, inquiry has just come through and I'm looking for a wedding. I know I want photo. I might want video in 2027. So where do I go from there?
So I respond and say that our first I check that the date, if they specify a date, is available. And then from there, I set up a consultation call with them. Every single inquiry that comes through gets a complimentary consultation call. And that means that they get to know me or us. I get to know them a little more, their story, how they met, more about what they're looking for their day, how long their coverage might be, that sort of thing. And then I review all of our packages, or we've created custom packages several times, depending on what people are looking for, that just make sure that they get the coverage that they want for their wedding day. And then from there, give them about a week and check in, Hopefully they book. Often they do. And the booking process involves a contract and invoices and all sorts of things like that. And then we have, it used to just be one, but we've changed it. There's 2 questionnaires that we send the couple. The first one is just some very basic information because early on in the process, they won't know everything, and that's okay. But sometimes it's helpful for us to have some of those basics to start out with. And then they'll get a second questionnaire that is pretty lengthy. It's like 9 pages. And that goes really into detail and depth of all the different pieces of the day, getting ready, if they want to do a first look, if they want pictures before the ceremony itself, other pictures, who they want to be included, which is especially important in like family photos and that sort of thing.
Yeah, because a lot of it is, hey, who will be here at this time? What kind of photos are you wanting? Do you want us to focus more heavily on this person? Because sometimes it's hey, this is a new family member, our child. Sometimes it's this family member may not be with us for much longer. A lot of those things, and sometimes sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes
please don't photograph this person.
Yeah, it's like make sure they're on the end so that you can crop them out and some of that. And that's just,
only happened once, but
it has. But it's one of those things that
it's helpful to know ahead of time without it making it awkward.
Right, because if it's the day of and they're unhappy because it's them and that person is right next to you,
we won't know unless you tell us. Right.
Editing that out is a lot harder.
Yeah.
So from those pieces, yes, again, I mean, I think there's also a part of that process that is not just, like you said, them getting to know you, but you getting to know them, because we have to make sure that they're a client that's going to work for us too. We've had people that we don't feel like they are the kind of client that we want to work with. And I think that's okay.
Yeah. That's why there's thousands of photographers out there. There's thousands of couples out there. They all will fit right with someone different.
Mm-hmm. So in that, talk about your style, those kind of pieces, because I think that's something I've seen sometimes where someone will comment and they're like, I want this style, I want this style. And I'll see people comment that I know that's not their style.
For sure.
So how does that, and then what is a style? What does that even mean?
Yeah. There are a lot of different descriptors for different styles out there, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint sometimes what you're looking for. So I think a lot of people will inquire saying they want something and they don't really know what that means necessarily. But I think my style especially speaks to what's actually happening. I try and capture a lot of candid moments. Obviously, there are those post things. There's family photos. There's some like prompts that we'll give couples. There's, okay, stand and look at the camera. What I have seen lovingly referred to as the grandma refrigerator pose. They stand, smile, and look straight ahead.
Okay,
yeah, that's the picture your grandma wants on the fridge.
You're right. That's funny. I had not heard that. Yeah, that's too good.
So there are those things that you want to make sure are captured because especially the grandma is going to want that. But you're probably also going to want that photo. But candid is definitely a big focus for me, as well as editing wise. I tend to stay as true to color as possible. And for me, that is not necessarily going to look exactly the same day to day because the weather conditions are different. The venue is different. The time of year is different. So trying to just make sure that it looks as close to what it did on that day as possible with a little bit of extra saturation because I like color.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm stuck on the grandma refrigerator pose. I really had not heard that. So in some of that also, I mean, the process on the editing time, I think for the most part with weddings, people kind of get it. It's in the contract as far as like, hey, this is when you can expect things to go. Why is it that, and this is legitimately asking because I'm not trying to softball this up. Why does it take you the time it takes you when you're going through to edit? Why? Because I think you're much more specific than I am.
I am, yeah. Maybe a little too much sometimes, but
like, what are you focusing on?
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to make sure that the photos, videos that the couple receives are meaningful and look as clean and professional and as close to the day as possible as they were. So I do spend a fair amount of time going through and editing and color correcting and that sort of thing. But we actually got a software last year that has helped speed that process up some. But the process is going to take a while because you're getting a lot of material. It's a 6, 8, 10-hour day. You're getting a lot of material. So this software has actually been super helpful in speeding up the culling process, which pretty much just means it goes through and picks out the photos it thinks are the best ones, which especially during family photos is super helpful because I will take 15, 20 photos of the same moment because you have so many people in the picture. Someone's going to be blinking, someone's going to be making a weird face, someone's not going to be looking at the camera. So if it can pick out the best one of those, and sometimes I will go in and like kind of splice two together, which also takes time, or put someone's face on top of their face from a different picture, that sort of thing, especially with little kids. So that is something that takes a fair amount of time going through that, and that software has sped that up a lot. It does have an editing option that I've played around with a little bit, but it also needs some refining so that it still speaks to our style in a way. I mean, our style is what the day looked like, but it's still a little more refined than just that. You're not going to get that raw image because you don't necessarily want that. The color's not going to be exactly the same.
Right. I mean, I think people have heard the term raw file and everything, and they usually just think that's just the picture. And a raw file is legitimately a different format of the file. It's the same with video. When I say that we're shooting in log, which we've started doing more on the wedding days, if you get that raw footage, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look right.
I mean, there's really no other way to say it. It doesn't look good because the way it separates out color, it ends up coming out looking a lot more muted, bland, but that's because it's captured so much data.
Right. So all of that is stored behind the scenes, and really being able to pull that color forward and pull that contrast forward is part of the editing process. But we shoot in log, we shoot in raw because there is so much more data there to manipulate and play with, and you get a better end result because of that.
I also think people don't realize legitimately how massive these files can be, because I think we both can agree we have the tendency to overshoot
just a little bit.
But like, I know it's because we don't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
But I'd say the average wedding day, even just a 6-hour wedding day.
Yeah, at least 4,000, 5,000 pictures, like
per person.
Yeah.
So like, it's not uncommon that you're going through. Now the culling process, like you said, the software is really doing that first part. But it's not often not uncommon that you won't go through 10,000 photos, and of those 10,000 photos, you're culling it down to 1,500.
Right.
Of the wedding day, we're not filming 8 hours. We're there 8 hours, but like, you don't have 8 hours worth of video. It's more of small pieces here and there. But I'd still say it's probably an hour or two total of footage.
At least. Definitely more than that for a lot of them.
Yeah, I think each wedding day we could probably say is at least half a terabyte to a terabyte of information.
Yeah, we just backed up everything, and it took days
Yeah,
from
literal
this
days.
past year. So,
And then something messed up, and I thought there was an error, and I almost cried because it was 18 terabytes worth of stuff that we would have potentially lost. And
we've delivered it to people, but we still want that footage. We still want
And I think that's an important question of why do we keep it?
Part of it is for ourselves, to go back and use pieces for marketing and other things. But really a big part of it is so that if someone loses their video, if someone loses their photos, if they don't have access to something anymore, that we're still able to give that to them. And especially a good example recently, we had a client reach out from one of the earliest weddings we shot in 2022, and her sister passed away. And she said, "Do you have any footage? Just anything that you can send?" And we went out and got a hard drive and put every single piece of footage on it and sent it to her.
And to me, I think that's one of the most important pieces of what we do, is just being able to capture those things. And I know it's the tagline, I know it's all that, and it's marketing.
But preserving those moments.
Right. Because
and those memories with people.
You don't realize how important it is until you don't have the option anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to get emotional trying to say this. I know for me, a large part of this also came from the fact of when my brother died, I remember sitting on the couch and watching the video that we'd gotten from the funeral home of all the photos that my parents had done. I grew up, I mean, my mom took pictures of everything. It's part of why I don't like being in front of the camera. I like being behind the camera as much as possible. But going through and seeing all the photos of him and then seeing the point where I wasn't in them anymore, it just, it hurt. But it was also something that just because we had it, I'm able to go back and relive some of those things that I'd forgotten about entirely. I mean, there was a video I think we found that I still have on my phone that was just us being stupid and riding bikes over a ramp into the ditch. And it's literally like maybe a 30-second clip of him and I doing it. But just having that to go back to, it means a lot. And I think on wedding days in particular, that's something that you want to remember. And it's so easy to forget because so much goes on.
Those days go by really fast.
I think back to some friends of ours' wedding that when we went to it, and it felt like they never got a moment to stop. I mean, constantly. This was before we were ever doing anything with weddings. It was like the second wedding I'd ever been to in my life. But it felt like, yeah, we wanted to say hey, but we could see them going table to table, this to that. They had like 15 minutes to eat. That's the reality for a lot of couples. So now that I've cried on camera,
you're welcome, everyone.
Yeah, there we go. So beyond that, looking at the other things with Langley Media and that kind of stuff, what about that has made you kind of change the way that you've thought about things? Where did that kind of come from? Because I know you talked about the fact that it was us not having stuff for ourselves and looking at that. But beyond that, what part of what has changed, I guess, since you started at the chamber?
Yeah. I mean, like you just said, it is a large part of it is the chamber involvement, seeing other business owners and small business owners, especially in case that I've been in now for almost 2 years, what they need and what can help serve them. Community has always been a really big piece for both of us, I think, which kind of led you to this job in the first place. But being able to serve our community in any way we can with the skills that we have is so important to just not just our careers, but our lives, what's meaningful to us.
And with that, do you have anything that you kind of gravitate towards? What's all the different stuff that Langley Media will cover, but like within that, is there anything you, again, sort of like weddings, you feel you've got more of a passion for?
I think it does go a little bit hand in hand with the portraits, and sessions is more of that lifestyle type feeling, I guess. Seeing the person in action doing what they're doing, whether it's someone at a bank talking to a customer, someone who owns a small business creating things, like physically watching them pour the soap or whatever they're doing. Those pieces, I think the human element is really meaningful to me and helps them tell their story. I know you definitely gravitate more to taking the pictures of the things. So that's a good combination.
Yeah, you do the people. I'll focus on the thing that the flowers, the soap, the coffee, the thing that can't talk back to me and that I get to use afterwards. That's why I always smell fresh. Oh my God, what am I doing here? Speaking about what we're doing here and the fact that when this comes out, this will already have happened. We've got a little girl on the way. Well, when this comes out, it'll be here, so I can say it. So Langley will be here soon. With that, how has that kind of shifted things for you, things for company, all of the above?
Yeah, definitely. The other piece of it, trying to add this element, is so that we can have some more consistency, because weddings tend to happen all at the same time. And especially around here in the past few years, it is the fall. We have 3 back-to-back in October this year, which is its own thing that we're going to figure out. Someone's going to watch the baby. It'll be fine. But being able to have something more consistent than the weddings, as much as I love the weddings, but those 6, 8, 10-hour days are a lot. And being able to have a little more flexibility in my schedule, giving those small projects, that sort of thing, each month, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 pictures, that'll take me an hour. And then I can go back to whatever the baby needs me for, or split that hour up into several 15-minute chunks, probably for a little while. But
Right.
Creating something that, for us at least, that's a little more flexible and a little more consistent at the same time, with the baby especially, is important.
But for you personally, how has this shift changed things? I mean, and now I'm getting into questions that I don't know the answer to, so this is kind of fun. But like, for real with this, I mean, this is a whole different world we're about to experience.
Yeah.
So how is this on your mind?
Well, I definitely have noticed my ability to focus change just a little bit. And especially when a new project comes out, that's what I want to edit. As much as I also enjoyed the wedding or whatever before that. But it's definitely made me reflect on a lot of things. And I mean, looking back the other day at pictures of myself, I was like, who is that person? I look completely different, just from the front, apparently. Or the side is probably even more noticeable right now. But
the amount of people that have come up to you and just been like, "You're carrying high" or "You're carrying low" has been really fun.
I don't know. That's the entirety of my torso. I don't know what you're talking about.
But within that, I mean, has there been a change in your mindset towards things? I mean, I know for me there has been. So I just would like to see on your side.
Yeah. I mean, I think recently, especially, at first it didn't really hit me, but how different everything is going to be, which is maybe cliche to say, but
Right.
this the last week too, especially. I mean, we've got at this point a month left until our due date. Whereas we realized yesterday 29 days, um, which is kind of crazy to think about, but it's made me kind of reflect on myself a lot and made me realize how lucky we are to have the life we have and for you to be able to have the flexibility you do. I mean, having 4 weeks of leave is amazing to begin with. I know a lot of people don't get that.
Shout out to the chamber board. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. No, really, I think for me, it's been a lot of the same. It's being able to go back and look at those community of people around us, look at those that are there ready to support no matter what happens. Being able to come in and work with people and work with a board that understands the importance of family and isn't asking me to put work over my family. In fact, they're saying the opposite in many of the situations of, no, your family needs to come first. Because I think there's a culture we have here of understanding that if at home, if things aren't going okay, if something is wrong, at any point in this pregnancy, if there's been even a question of, hey, we have to take Rachel to the doctor, anything like that, it's been, yeah, absolutely. Because, and don't get me wrong, I love what I do here at the chamber. There's nothing that I'm saying that I don't love, but there's nothing we do here that is life or death.
Not at all.
There's no emergency situations here at the chamber. And there are deadlines. There's all of that, of course, still, but we all kind of have that understanding with one another here at the office, with our members of, we want you to put your lives first. We want you to put your families first, and it's reciprocated. And I'm beyond grateful for that. And yeah, to have 4 weeks to not sleep at home is going to be awesome. All right, so trying to like think about, because this really has been probably the most non-traditional episode I've done, and that's totally okay. We'll work on it before the next one. Is there anything, I guess, that you now are looking at before the next episode, which will be somewhere like September, October, that you want to work on, that you want members to help you, hold you accountable to, anything that you'd like to make connections on with them?
I think, I mean, I have become more involved in the chamber in the past couple months at this point, especially. I mean, I've been a chamber ambassador last year and this year. I'm now a Case 1 lead. If you want to join, let me know. But kind of building more of those connections is really important to me, and especially that I'll be stepping out for a little bit and coming back. I think being able to maintain those is something I really want to focus on. More one-to-ones, more connections, really. Part of what I found so valuable in the chamber is being able to connect with people. Alan says it all the time, but people do business with people. They don't want to necessarily be a repeat customer to someone they met off the street. They want those genuine connections because they build trust. And that's really important in not just business, but also life. Like being able to create those friendships has been really incredible for me. So
Yeah, I was going to ask, since starting at the chamber, you have had to get more involved with company because, again, while I'm here, I'm chamber employee.
right.
How has that shift happened for you? Because I know when we first talked about this, when we were considering if this was a position that I was going to accept when it was offered, you weren't thrilled about being the person going to case and being the face of the business.
Yeah, I like being behind the scenes.
Right.
I'm a wallflower. I'm quiet. I'm definitely an introvert. But once I was exposed to it more and significantly more involved, I realized that there's so many opportunities to still be able to be that introverted self, but learn to put myself out there, and network and build those relationships. But case ambassadors, any piece like that has been really helpful toward that, because they are smaller group settings that you kind of have to talk to each other, in a good way. But
yeah, I feel like I've seen you come out of your shell more than you had before, because it wasn't, I don't know, it feels like the years before, when you were going out and you were doing things, when you were working at Great Road, when you were working at Old Navy, you were just leaving the house to go do a job. And while yes, to a degree, this is still work and job when you're doing it, it feels like you've started building real genuine connections. There are more people now that I think you call friend than you had ever really before. And I know that I mean, I could see it taking its toll on you when we moved here those first few years, because
yeah, when we moved back, I didn't know anyone anymore. Everyone that I knew that I was friends with did not live here. I knew a handful of teachers and like friends' parents. So even when I worked at Eastern Divide, like that's who I would recognize when they came in, which was still a nice connection to have, but it's not the same as like a friendship.
Right.
And I think everyone can relate to this. Building friendships in adulthood is weird and difficult. And leaving New York, I think that was another big thing that hit me, not just the having to leave and fully uproot the careers we were trying to build, the plan that I had in my head, was leaving those friendships behind and those relationships behind, because that's important for life as well. So
yeah, I mean, I think that hit you a lot harder than it did me, because I would say, while we're both introverts, I think I'm more of an extroverted introvert. There aren't many people I meet that I'm not immediately like friendly towards, and all of those.
It's a lot easier for you to talk to people you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%. But also then I still had, through playing games and Xbox and stuff, like I still had people that I was talking to more consistently and regularly. And I think I've seen you start to have those same pieces, just here more locally.
In person, not over a headset.
Yeah, not over a headset. Like you go get coffee with someone or you get brunch, and I'm like, cool, great, I'm going to play my game.
Well, we recharge in different ways. Like I definitely recharge by having those interactions with small groups of people. And again, like you said, you can talk to anyone when you meet them. You don't necessarily, that makes your battery drain. And once I get to know someone, then talking to them is the opposite for me. Like that helps recharge me. Obviously, I also need my alone time and my like sit and craft or whatever,
right,
which I do need to make more time for, because it ends up being doom scrolling a lot. But
until you said that, I hadn't realized just how different. But you're right. I mean, when I get home at the end of my week, because so much of what we do here at the Chamber is networking, is socializing, is building the connections. When I get home, I don't want to see anyone.
you like disassociate.
I disassociate. I like to play games. I like to watch things. I like to just kind of be. And
yeah, sorry about that. That's going to change a bit.
I'm 100% going to change. We're ready for it, Langley. My time's not going to be my own anymore. And that's fine, though, because I think another thing that I get joy out of is doing things for others.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, a lot of, I think many of you here at the Chamber can see this too. When someone needs help, I'm usually one of the first people to offer the help. And that is to my detriment at some point because, I mean...
There's only so much time in the day.
There's only so much time in the day. There's only so much room on the plate.
So much energy to put towards things.
Right.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and it has. I mean, I've seen you a lot. It's funny because you'll be like, hey, I'm going to go get brunch with so-and-so. Is this you good? And I'm like, great, cool. See you later. It's not like... hey, can I come? It's like, cool, you go have
Please
fun.
let me be alone and
Awesome.
sucked into my video game for a little bit.
I'm going to sit in this dark room and it's
You've
beautiful.
gotten a little better about the dark room part. When we first moved, you can see a little bit on the walls here. He took one room as his office and I took a different room. I took the sunroom. He literally covered the window with sound paneling. He was in a literal sound cave.
Yeah. It was cool. I couldn't hear anything. Well, this has been a lot of rambling, but thank you for doing this with me. This was also against her will. So,
to an extent, mostly because I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. Hey, that's all right. This isn't what I would have
Although
told
I guess
you to
this
expect.
episode, I don't think you knew what to expect either.
No, I didn't. It's interesting to sit down and have this conversation with your wife as a business owner, and fully separate. It's just not possible at this juncture to do that. But I've enjoyed talking with you. I've enjoyed having that part of things. And then
I hope so.
Hopefully for the next episode, we will learn how to stick to my structure a little bit better. Especially, we paid for the advertising, so might as well make sure we're doing it well.
Yeah.
All right. So before we leave, though, the one thing, where can people find you? Where can people find the work? All of that information.
Yeah. We are watershomeproductions.com. That's just what was available when we started the company. So that is also our handle on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, if that counts as social media. We do have a TikTok. I'm really bad at posting on it.
Who knows if TikTok will
and
exist?
who knows if
by the
it will
time-
still exist by the time this episode comes out. That's true.
We did make those sandwich videos for a while.
Those are fun. That's
Those were
fun.
fun.
Yeah, if you want to see us making a lot of faces at really interesting Depression era.
I mean, all over the place. But
Yeah, a history of sandwich book. That's fun.
Anyway, sorry. All the places they can find you.
Yes, you can find me at watershomeproductions.com or at Waters Home Productions on social media. My email is rachel@watershomeproductions.com. All of the above.
And do not go to the address listed on Google if you
That
search
is,
us.
I have a home office.
Yes. Please don't come to our home.
Yeah. You could drop off food outside and then leave when the baby's here, but other than that, that's fine.
But text us. Don't ring the doorbell.
Our dog will go insane.
Our dog will go insane, which will make the baby cry. And then Alan will have to put earplugs on and or cry himself. But yes, with baby at home, please don't come to our house. Well, thank you again for being here. Thank you all for listening to this rambling mess of what it was.
It'll sound better by the time it comes out.
Yeah, exactly. We'll figure that out. But thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you like, download, subscribe, all of those things so that you see when any new episodes come out, any of the other content, including Lunch and Learns, Eggs and Issues, Business 101, all the other content we've got here at the Chamber coming out for our business owners. If there's something that you want to hear, reach out to me, marketing@montgomerycc.org. We can work on getting that together. But in the meantime, go out, invest, connect, engage, and prosper.